Welcome to a holiday Monday. Soccer Down Here, Soccer's Morning Show. John here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us, as you always do. Figured for the sake of continuity, we would go ahead and do a show on Monday and get everything off your chest. That's what Mondays are for. Mondays are Reaction Mondays, and then obviously if there's still anything off your chest that you still want to get off your chest, that's what Tuesday's for. This is going to be a very, very busy match week. So here's the traffic for the week in general. And I had to do it once again off of multiple calendars and multiple pages and all these kinds of things. So here's the short version. Short version's right here. And this is where I sit there and I look at the guests and see what we have. So what I did today, if the guests want to come in, the guests can come in. Morning, Hutch. So our traditional guests, Abe Gordon, Garrett Chapman. Bart is on vacation on 30A. So if you're down there on 30A, go say hi. And I think Bart's going to be joining us tomorrow to kind of give himself a day to settle in on vacation. And, yeah, we're going to talk about Dog So tomorrow with Bart. We'll talk about it today, too, and we'll get into all of the different things that are there. And so Drew will be joining us at 10:30 to talk about FA Cup, and we'll talk about what's going on in the Premier Leagues for Prem and Proper, the review. So Bart will be joining us on Tuesday. Wednesday, it is an opportunity to go down to Fort Lauderdale to catch up with Messi and friends. And we'll have Tyler on, possibly Dylan, possibly Jason. Thursday, it's our 1 week, one time per month visit on the last Thursday of the month with Kaylor Hodges and our friends at the USL show. Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30, and then back at it again on Friday because Charlotte comes to town on Sunday afternoon for the Sunday afternoon Big Fox matchup. And so you'll have all of that going on Friday. So that's your week. And the options were left open. The door was left open, and Abe Gordon answered. So Abe is here, and so you staying dry? Actually, my first question for you, sir, is how is Chip responding to the noise this morning?
Yeah, we did just return from a short walk. It wasn't our normal trek, so we might hear about that a little bit later. But the towel was required, so that's all you need to say about that one.
Yeah, I mean, the way that it works here in Office HD is that the rowdy man is not a fan of the noise. And he instantly gravitates to the boss. I mean, like first strike of thunder, he is heading straight for the boss. And it's like, I'm going to back up right up against you. And he just hates noise. He hates the thunder, hates rain, all of that kind of stuff. And he hangs out with the boss all morning.
Yeah, Chipper actually handles it quite well when we're outside. She doesn't care if she's getting wet. She doesn't get bothered by thunder outside. But when we are inside, I don't know if it's that she can't hear it or can't tell exactly what the noise is. But anytime the storms are coming, she kind of gravitates a little bit. She's not the biggest cuddle monster, but she does kind of show up a little bit when there are storms in the area.
No doubt. And so we anticipate. And what I did when I posted that the show was going to be happening this morning, I posted it storms. Storms, optional. If the storm is impacting power, then obviously we can't do a show. But just to give that warning that if the storms hit and hit a certain way that we would we'd be kind of doing things a little later than we normally would. Obviously, the streak is now at 9. It's the winless streak is now at 9. For those that didn't get the chance to listen to you and Garrett on the post-game show after the 1-0 loss to LAFC, what was the general response for everyone there?
Yeah, I mean, specifically dialed into that game, for me, it was extreme frustration with the penalty decision. It wasn't a penalty. It was a red card that led to a free kick, but we all know what I'm referring to. The denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, the dog so. Quite frankly, I don't agree with the way the rules were implemented. The ball is gone. There is no humanly way possible that Bogusz is getting on the back end of that ball. After Goose heads it, it hits Bogusz's face and ricochets approximately 118 miles an hour. I think it's normally about the same speed that Aaron Judge's exit velocity is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just not recovering that ball, whether he's standing, whether he's down. For it not to be called in the moment, for it then to be overturned on VAR, really unfortunate for Goose, but obviously the ensuing free kick, once you're down to 10 men, then comes off the wall. Cohen's kind of caught moving the wrong direction with his body and just can't get the limbs to communicate.
Unless he's Stretch Armstrong, he ain't getting that one.
Yeah, and so I really just didn't feel like they should be down 1-0. And this was more frustrating than, say, the Nashville penalty kick. While I didn't necessarily agree with it, I thought it was light. I think you could make an argument for it. This one, again, if you're calling it because you want to call it, fine. But, like, it's very clear that that ball is not going to be recovered before going out for a goal kick. And so I find it really tough to settle with the fact that that turns into an eventual goal. And it obviously puts you down to 10 men, requires a multitude of substitutions, stuff like that. So for me, and I'm not one to normally blame the officiating, but this one felt a little more costly than the others directly because of a decision that I very strongly disagreed with. So that was kind of the discussion from that aspect. And then the other aspect is, and I know the chances created meter is kind of going in waves, and it was up for a while, then it went real far down. It feels like it's up a little bit again, but the issue is that the goals created is not going up. You had multiple situations to get a good final touch on a ball, and it does not happen. And it's just, there's not much to be said about what's happening, except guys aren't finishing chances. And look, I think we ultimately see where this is probably headed, probably after the match with Charlotte, if a change is going to be made. And I think we understand why. Results are the bottom line. It's a results-based business. But, man, like, how can someone sit here and tell me Gonzalo Pineda's to blame when Daniel Rios misses the ball 3 feet from the net? And it's just moments like that it's so crazy to put the blame on tactics or decisions or whatever you want Pineda be the fall guy for here, when it's just guys on the field in the moment not getting it done. And I think the Rios moment, kind of encapsulates that perfectly. And you just, people are going to blame Pineda for a 1-0 loss, another game where you weren't able to put anything in the back of the net, regardless of whether you won or lost. You didn't get any goals. And it's like, we blaming Pineda for that. Like, Daniel Rios is sitting there 5 feet from goal, and yeah, it's bouncing a little bit, fine. But, like, you are a professional soccer player. Like, that needs to be struck. And look, it happens to everyone. I'm not mad at Daniel Rios. It's part of the game. But it's very tough to sit here and continually listen to people blame Gonzalo Pineda for stuff that really, I mean, is it his fault that the VAR believes that Bogusz could have somehow sped up, hit that mushroom boost, and gotten to the ball? Like, is it his fault that we're down to 10 men and the ensuing kickoff goes off of the wall and beats Cohen, who's moving to his right already? Like, there are just these moments where he's getting blamed, and it's like, I don't know what you want him to do. These are in-game moments. And so, it is frustrating. I think we all do like Pineda, but at the same time, the record is the record. Both over the course of 4 years, but also over the course of what's going on right now. And decisions are going to be made, and they could be made quite quickly, to be honest. But I don't know what else anyone else who would be brought in. I mean, it's not like if Rob Valentino takes over, Daniel Rios buries that upper 90. So it's just kind of they're left with a decision. I don't think it's, quite honestly, that difficult of a decision. But it is frustrating to see the franchise at this state right now.
I went back and was looking at the win-loss margins in this run. And I'll go back, and this is strictly just Major League Soccer aspect of it. The last 9 matchups: lose 1-0 to LAFC, draw to Nashville, lose to Cincinnati 1-0, lose to DC 3-2, lose to Minnesota 2-1, goalless draw with Chicago, lose to Cincinnati 2-1, draw with Philly, draw with NYCFC, beat Chicago 3-0. Last time Atlanta United had anything more than a 1-goal loss was Toronto. That's how far back we're going to discuss things here. So March 23rd was the last time that Atlanta United had a loss of more than 1 goal. And that has, I think, been one of the major frustrations in this entire thing, where if, to your point about being clinical, you finish here or finish there, you're either getting a point when you didn't have any, or you're ending up with 3 instead of 1. And so that seems to be the major storyline here, is that it's been close, but you're not getting that final touch to go into the back of the net during this entire run.
Yeah, you're 0-5 in those 1-goal games, and we talked about that. Garrett had that stat for us on a Saturday night, and you try and look at what could change to change that, or to make the draws, of which you've had a couple wins, 1-goal wins, and it is definitely the finishing. Look, the last couple of games you have kind of cleaned up the mistakes in the back, the ones that led to counters, easy goals, stuff like that. A lot of that obviously has to do with the return of Stian Gregerson as well, who was outstanding on Saturday night.
Yep.
But I mean, it's tough to get 3 points if you can't get 1 goal. And even the goals you have gotten, I mean, you got a penalty kick, you got an own goal that kind of dribbled the wrong way. And again, the frustrating thing for me is it's not that you're not taking shots. It's not that you're not putting balls towards net. It's that final touch. But you are still creating those opportunities. You're taking chances, but ultimately they're not paying off. And I don't really have an answer. It's not just that Giakoumakis is out because he was in and they weren't creating chances. Now you're going to be without Saba. You still have issues on the left. Amada's kind of returning into form. I actually thought he looked quite dangerous for the 35 minutes or so he played, but you have to wonder if that's something he can extrapolate over the course of a full 90, or he was only able to do that because he knew he was in for 30, stuff like that. But there doesn't seem to be any answers within the roster or the rotations. And that's what's kind of most troubling, is we take a look at it and there is no suggestion of do this better, do that better. It's just like, I don't know, like have a shot that's on net, that's in the back of the net. And look, Amada narrowly missed a couple times, just pushed it wide. We had a couple headers that rippled the side netting on the wrong side of the net. And then a swing and a miss from Rios. I mean, there was opportunity for 3 or 4 goals there. A free kick that just skimmed the top of the wall before going over the bar. And it's just not quite tight enough, unfortunately. And there's no answer. There's no one you're bringing off the bench that can improve upon what they're doing. And so we're stuck here waiting to see, like, how are they going to figure out how to score goals? Because taking less shots isn't the answer. Trying to find a more quality opportunity. I don't think they're lack of quality chances. And in fact, some of them, like we said, like some of these opportunities have like an XG of 0.6. Yeah. And you're just like, I mean, if you can't score on a 0.6 XG, a 0.7 XG, like, I got nothing for you. And unfortunately, that's what's happening right now.
And schedule compression is not over, because you end up having to go and check in on Messi and friends.
Yeah. And
Messi and friends ended up getting the Duke in Vancouver this past weekend, when it was just basically and friends. And it was Leo Campagna that started things late there. They sat and didn't even put him on the plane. Didn't even put Messi and Suarez and Busquets on the plane to Vancouver. And so the anticipation is that they will be starting coming up midweek at Chase down in Fort Lauderdale, going up against Atlanta United.
Yeah, it's obviously going to be an incredibly difficult game. You've got a team that just showed on the road without two of their bigger stars. They can still get it done. Those guys obviously going to be back, like you said. And Atlanta United is scuffling. My only hope is that, and it's no secret that Miami does not have the greatest defensive capabilities.
That's true.
Maybe there's something there that kind of wakes you up. You're still going to have to figure it out on your defensive end because you do know how dangerous they are on offense. And that certainly concerned me. I kind of mentioned it to Jason post game. And I know it's a dumb comment to say, but like, is there a world where you're comfortable just getting in some random track meet that's, MLS drunk after dark? Midweek mayhem.
Just take the over and just kind of.
Well, yeah. I mean, is there a world where you can get into just throw caution to the wind, get everyone pushed up the field, and see if you can win this thing 6-5? But then we go back to the problem. Like, we haven't scored 6 goals in 2 months of total gameplay,
right,
unless you're counting U.S. Open penalty kick shootouts. And so, yeah, you just try and find a way at this point. The frustrating thing is you've dropped so many games at home. I don't even know how pleased we're going to be if you can find a draw. Not that you're going to, but it's starting to feel like you've got to start to pick up 3 points on some of these road games. And obviously it doesn't have to be at Miami. You've got some winnable road games coming up as well. But yeah, there's really no answer for what to prepare for here. You've got a guy that is still playing among the best soccer that the world has ever seen. And you can't put the ball in the back of the net when it's right at your feet from 6 feet away, 5 feet away. And so things are not trending well for this midweek match Wednesday.
right.
But sometimes those are the moments that take you the most by surprise. And so we're gonna get in the studio. We're gonna talk about it pregame, and we're gonna sound good, and we're gonna be ready to roll. And then the match starts, and then like the post game's probably gonna take a different tone, as it has the last 7 or 8 times out. But look, it's an opportunity, if nothing else. And it feels like every time I say it, if you want to start the turnaround, it needs to start now. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen against Nashville. If you want to start the turnaround, you're back at home. 3 of your next 4 are at home. It needs to start now. That didn't happen against LAFC. So, look, man, like if you want to start any semblance of a turnaround, I think going down to Miami and getting some points on the road against Lionel Messi, with matches against Charlotte and Houston at home on the other side of that, you start to roll maybe 1 point or potentially 3 points into 6 or 8 or 9, maybe we can talk. But the timeline, as we all know, for Gonzalo Pineda is running very short.
Yeah, and you mentioned Charlotte. Charlotte comes to town on the weekend, and you go from having to go and see Messi and friends in the midweek to flying back after that match is over, rest and regen on, then ice baths on Thursday, maybe some light training on Friday, and walk through on Saturday because you're the Sunday afternoon game on Big FOX, where you end up with a rivalry game against a team that won't be minty fresh.
Yeah, and they've played really well at home, but they're on the road, Charlotte, in that one. So, yeah, and it's not just the match compression. It's also the injuries and who you can get back.
Yep.
Noah Cobb's still out. Looks like Derek Williams might be very close to returning. I know we saw him in some reserve action. We'll see what the timeline is for Giakoumakis, but Almada's back. But now you're also dealing with guys that are going to be away for the team. And Bartek Schlich is going to head to Poland with some personal matters and won't be back for a while. Yeah. And you've also got Sabalob Janidze, who at some point in the near future is going to be heading over to Europe as well to prepare with Georgia for the Euros. And so you're kind of right back into it where you're not going to have your full roster, but you're still going to have to find results. There's no way around that. The only thing I can say here is that as down in the dumps as it seems, you're still pretty close to the playoff line. You're not even at the halfway mark of the season. This can get turned around if you start to improve your performance on the field. Look, you're not going to win Supporter Shield. I don't even think you can make a run to the point where you're a top 4 seed. but that doesn't mean you're not still dangerous. And so there is time for this season to still be meaningful. But at some point, the turnaround has to actually start.
Yeah.
And it feels like the last 3 or 4 games I've pinpointed reasons why today could be the reason it starts, and it hasn't. At some point, it has to actually start for us to continue that discussion.
All right, so broadcast plans for Abe, Garrett, and the posse when Atlanta United takes on Messi and friends.
Yeah, we are going to be right there in the Kia studios there getting you ready. The pregame for that one is at 6:30 with kickoff shortly after that. At about 7:30 is 7:40, somewhere in there. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it. But look, I mean, we're not going to – it's no secret. This is the current number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. This is one of the greatest players of all time. I don't think we can just look at this and throw you out a ton of reasons why Atlanta United can break them down. This one's going to be tough. There's no denying that. So we'll talk about Messi. We'll do a little legacy discussion and also talk about a little bit more of why he's resting some games and of course, lucky Atlanta United that he'll be fully ready to go for us. They couldn't have flipped that around, but
Exactly.
Here we are.
Yep, from the Kia Studios. Nicely done, sir. Well done with the plug there for the sponsor for the studios. Just drifts right off the tongue. As always, my friend, it's great to see you on Mondays. I know that the Abe Gordon Casa Day Especial is going to be smelling like wet dog, and I know what that's all about. Just to make sure that everything's fine and that the noise stays very, very well. So my best to you and a very dry chipper here on a wet Monday, my friend. We will see you soon.
Yeah, sounds good, John. Thanks for having me.
You bet. That's Abe. And so Abe's gonna go and become hydrated, because that's the other thing that we always like to sit there and discuss. Make sure that Abe is properly hydrated for his segments. And like I said, what I did this morning, I said, since it's a holiday morning, I said, look, if you want to come in, you can come in. It's a holiday, but we're going to be doing a show because there's always stuff that, has to be talked about on a Monday after a weekend. And you guys have already started doing that in the Twitch pitch. And so we'll go now. Just whatever's on your mind, just get it off your chest. I mean, it's, after what happened this past weekend in the PGA Tour, just look, get it off your chest. Get it off your chest. Absolutely. That's, it's what Reaction Mondays are all about. Last thing I want is for you to have stuff that is hovering and hanging over an extended period of time. So whatever's on your mind, whatever's off your chest, get it out in the Twitch pitch. We'll talk about it. And like I said, it's a quick week opportunity for a lot of different discussions. Match week on Wednesday, match week on Sunday. And just basically everyone just keep an eye out on each other. And obviously today being what today is, I will end the show with my own thoughts. And it's the thought that I traditionally bring for this particular show on this date. And like I said, that'll be at the end of the show this morning. There's plenty of stuff to talk about overseas. Coaching carousel, who wants whom, who's going to go where, what happened on the weekend. Like I said, we'll have Drew on for a little bit, and then we'll finish up with my thoughts about whatever's on your mind. And I know that Abe did bring up the Dog So Red to Brad. And so what I will do there, considering that what I'm going to do and what I started doing with Bart when he comes in, and Bart will be in tomorrow. What I've started doing with Bart is this. When it comes to a call that is made on the field, I want Bart to walk us through why it could be called as such, and then why it could not be called as such. I want both sides of the equation laid out for a situation when we do have an episode of Reffing Down here. It's like, okay, I want you to walk me through this moment from an official's perspective. Why could this be called this way? Why could this not be called this way? And so that way we have a gauge as to the range of thought when it comes to a particular element And like I said, it could have been Premier League, could have been whatever. But I know that one of the things we'll be discussing tomorrow is that dog so red. My thought on the dog so red is this. Much like Abe, after Brad heads it, and it heads right toward Bogish, and it just hits him square in the nose, and it's going nowhere close to staying in the field of play. And, if Brad is in midair and he ends up making contact with Bogish, okay, fine. I could see a foul outside the 18. I cannot, under any circumstance, see a dog so red. I also would like to have wandered up to Siri. I don't know if he was hitting it right at the at Bogish Dell. I don't know if he was. That was just as he's launching and he's making contact. That was where contact was made, I guess. So I would say foul, yes, because of Brad as he's in the air, and as he's in the air and has headed the ball, it has gone off of Bogish, and Bogish's header in response to the short range fire is going nowhere close to the net. That Brad, as he's going by and he's extended in his Superman pose without the arms straight forward, he makes contact with Bogish. I get it. I get the idea of, okay, you're working your way off to the side. And Chris, we'll talk about, now that we're going down this road, thank you for reminding me about the Aaron Long elbow on Jamal. Remind me in a second, since we're talking dog so red. So Brad is airborne, and natural body reactions are going to be what they are. He makes contact with Bogish after Bogish has headed the ball wide. It's going to be wide of the net. It was not going to be staying in play. And you end up with dog so red. Like I said, tomorrow I will have Bart walk us through why this could have been called a dog so red. It goes to video review. We are going to have a lot of audio accompaniment with Bart tomorrow. It goes to video review. And as I've always said, I think the longer that you are having something under video review, the more you're looking for something to call. And I think that was the case here with Brad and the dog so red. I would maintain that you need to put a clock on this. Hell, we got a clock on everything else these days. We got a pitch clock in Major League Baseball. I think that if you haven't found anything between a discussion with VAR, the AVAR, and the on-field center ref, if you haven't found something in, say, 90 seconds, with all of the different angles that you probably have, if you haven't found it in 90 seconds to 2 minutes, check is complete, not reversed. Call on the field is what it is. So put a time limit on it. That to me is no, Dell. I mean, it's what we're doing. Dell is saying that we can't blame the refs for every game. I'm not. Refs are ultimately responsible for game state, and we can have the game state discussion. Calls do change games. Calls do change the approach in games. But in this particular case, I'm putting the refereeing to the side. I'm treating the refereeing as a separate issue. While I will stipulate that you do have calls that change games. We'll get into Atuesta and Aaron Long and all of that. Had this review not taken place, safe to say that Atlanta United would have had a man advantage when Atuesta was given his second yellow. Does the game change? We don't know. But once again, when you have a review that creates this opportunity, the game changes. And I know Emilio's asking what happened. I think that there are times, Emilio, when you're a man down, you play freer for whatever reason. I don't know what can explain that, but there are times when teams are a man down and they seem to be playing more freely offensively. Chris is saying that the Gazan review took a little over 6 minutes, which to me is ridiculous. That you're looking at something, and like I said, and spaces open up, Hutch, absolutely true. You have these elements where, like, if I need to go back today and just watch the match just for the sake of getting timing down and, all this kind of stuff. So if the Gazan review took a little over 6 minutes, Chris is like, I'm not so sure how that's clear and obvious. If it's that obvious, it shouldn't take 6 minutes. Absolutely true. The error has to be a clear and obvious error by Sergi Boyko on the call. To Chris's point, if it is a clear and obvious error, which is what VAR is for, then it shouldn't take that 6 minutes. What you're doing is you're using VAR as a crutch. Center ref is using VAR as a crutch. Hey man, I need help. Help is not a clear and obvious thing. And the clear and obvious, that's fixing an error. That means you're not confident in yourself when you're making the call in the first place. Hey, I think I might have messed this up. No, that is insecurity personified going forward. And then you have VAR, who can be some kind of an overlord, to sit there and go, yeah, put your hand around the back of the center ref. Yeah, this should have been this. But once again, it is a clear and obvious error is what you're looking for. Was it a clear and obvious error that you go from a foul to a dog so red? Once again, it goes off of Mateusz Bogus's face. Ain't nobody going to be catching up to that. As Abe said, it went off at like 118 miles an hour off of Bogus's face. Bogus is not catching up to that. Ball's going out of play. Foul, yes. Dog so red, no. So you end up with moments like that. But like I said, in this particular instance, I'm pulling this moment. I'm pulling this moment and really this crew to the side. Yes, calls change games. That is not in dispute. Calls can change games. We always talk about game state and how things can be different. This particular crew, how many of you have, for a show of hands, how many of you have Apple Watches? How many of you have Apple Watches? How many of you can sit there and go into your Apple Watch and go, Siri, what is a foul? That's basically what this crew needed to do. Because I don't know what a foul was. I don't know what a foul wasn't. When Aaron Long, thank you for the reminder on the Aaron Long call. When Aaron Long is inside the 6, and I don't think he lined up Jamal, but he sure as hell made contact with Jamal. All you got to do is look at that jersey and the physios and having to chew on the towels. How Aaron Long doesn't get a card, I don't know. I really don't know. How Atuesta stayed in as long as he did, I don't know. Considering after that first foul, and all he did after that first foul was chirp. All he's doing is chirping. Why Steve Cherundolo didn't pull him? Maybe he's just not having confidence in his bench at that point, considering that Atuesta came in for Ilie, and Ilie did not play more than 23 minutes in the midweek. So Atuesta had played 67 in the midweek and then was playing. Maybe Cherundolo wasn't happy with the depth that he had behind Atuesta for that positioning. But Atuesta should have been gone a lot sooner than he was. I don't know what a foul was with this crew. I don't know what a foul wasn't with this crew. Frankly, and I would have liked to have known what the thought process was with this particular center ref about the dog so red. I would have liked to have known. But this particular crew, and this goes back to our discussion that we've been having about PSRA and Pro. And yes, it is a monopoly, and I don't know what recourse anybody has in this regard because I think it's now a closed shop. I'd love to know what the review process is when it comes to how often you have center refs and crews reviewed. And Chris, yeah, they should. Christopher Abel, should this crew get the Alex Chilowitz treatment and get sent to the 4th division in England? Absolutely. Well, you'd be doing League Two a disservice by having them do the AFC Wimbledon Salford City match. It'd be doing a disservice to League Two in England. But I'd love to know what like I said, I'd love to know what the review process is. I really would. I'd love to know. But my fear with this deal that was signed to bring this group of incredible individuals back, I think it has turned it into a closed shop. I think that it's a closed shop. I don't know what review processes are in place. And that's disappointing because I think we all deserve better. I think we deserve better on the field of play when it comes to officials officiating, because when we look at the officials assignments, the officiating assignments, and we sit there and you're looking at, you're looking at so-and-so and so-and-so and, so-and-so's on this crew and so-and-so's on this crew. I wish we had this individual instead of this one who's a fourth, those kinds of things. Whoever's a fourth should be in the middle. Whoever's in the middle shouldn't be anywhere close. And no, Christopher, you're not alone. He's asking, is it just me or were the replacement referees better refs than what we have now? I thought the quality of officiating was higher during the lockout. I thought that there were some individuals that were the replacement officials that were better than some of the folks that are back in the door from the PSRA. But like I said, I think now with this deal in place, I think we are stuck with the versions of Angel Hernandez's that we talk about on a weekly basis. When we get the assignments either later today or tomorrow, we'll know who's going to be down in Central Florida. I think for a Philadelphia-Cincinnati match, and I think also that you have to have, and this is something I think that they miss out on, is that you have to have an individual at the top of the ladder when it comes to refereeing assignments that knows how to read a room. That for a heated rivalry matchup like a Cincy-Philly, you don't have Joe Dickerson doing Cincy and Philly. You need an Ismail Elfath or a Jair Marufo, someone that we hold in high regard in those matchups. You need your FIFA officials, your FIFA-sanctioned officials in those rivalry matchups. There are a lot of times where folks that we sit there and we shake our head at put in a situation where they're going to be in a cauldron from absolute zero, and they don't know how to read the room in the first place. What makes them think that they can read the room in a situation where you're going to have a rivalry match? I think the folks that do the assigning need to learn how to read the room. Sergi Boyko going in, and the God bless the friends at Who Scored, because frankly, Pro, just to let you know. Pro isn't posting any statistics this year. They haven't posted any up-to-date stats. Traditionally, what they'll do is they'll post center ref, number of matches they've called, fouls, all these kinds of things. Pro isn't doing that this year. Sergi Boyko, just for the record, having called his 7th match in the middle, is, by the way, in the list. How do we phrase this? On the last of 55 individuals who have called matches this year, 55 guys, 55 folks in the middle for matches this year. And we bring in Maddie Cruz. So Maddie Cruz on the 1s and 2s. Question to the floor, and I'll include Maddie to this. Sergi Boyko, the man who was in the middle for Atlanta and LAFC this past weekend. 55 individuals, Maddie, this season have been center refs. Where do you think Sergi Boyko is on average number of fouls called per match to this point of the season?
Oh, Jesus. I mean,
you've got 1 being the most on average, 55 being the least on average. Where do you think Sergi Boyko falls?
On how many fouls he's called?
Match fouls called per match average this season between 1st and 55th. Where do you think Sergi Boyko is?
Ooh. I want to say 45. Because I in the match, at least from what we saw in Atlanta, when he was calling a foul, it was to the extreme. And any other, he really wasn't. Like, you mentioned it before, because I was listening in before I jumped in as I was making my coffee.
There you go.
It's like, I didn't know what was a foul and what wasn't. And there's the ringing again.
That's Sergi
Annual. Again. He's actually texting me right now. He's like, what? He's like, what are you saying?
Mm-hmm.
No, but I mean, just you didn't know what was a foul and what wasn't. You had no idea if he was going to stop play for something. So I think there might be others. So I'm going to say 45. Wrong! Dang. I tried.
Sergi Boyko, and Hutch is actually not far off. In 1 through 55, Hutch says he's at number 100. Hutch really isn't all that wrong. Sergi Boyko is dead blanking last of 55 officials this season when it comes to average number of fouls called per match. He is at 18, and the matchup with Atlanta and LAFC raised his average. 18.29. He is dead blanking last in fouls called per match.
Jeez.
Alan Chapman isn't too far away. Alan Chapman is 52nd at 19.88. But of the individuals who have called 7 matches or more in the middle, it is Sergi Boyko, who was in the middle for Atlanta and LAFC, dead blank and last at 18.29. Alan Chapman at 19.88. And then if you try and find another 7, you go to Guido Gonzalez Jr., who's 39th at 23.14. So that's what you're staring at. Going in, he was dead blank and last at an average of 18. Goes to 18.29. So that's what you were getting into with Sergi Boyko. And, so that I guess that was kind of what to expect when it came to calls, no calls, those kinds of things. Like I said, we're going to have Bart on tomorrow, and we'll get into all of this. But, yes, Siri, what is a foul? We got into the dog, so we discussed Aaron Long and the elbow to the chops of Jamal that drew blood that got no foul, that got no card.
Listen, of all the things that I think I'm more upset about, the red card on Guzan, that's a judgment call. I think you can
that took 6 minutes of
It took
review.
6 minutes. Listen, I don't personally agree that it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally agree, but I also can see other people's perspective as to why it is a red. I can see it. That one, I'm not really talking about that. But come on, Aaron Long, I don't care if he's not aiming for Jamal. I don't care what it is. It's in the box and you swung your elbow at a player from a corner. Like, come on. How is that not at least a yellow? How?
Mm-hmm. Well, Hutch says silence is golden until it becomes red. That's true. That's
Very
true.
true.
Yeah. So, Bart's going to be a very busy man when he comes in. I think he's coming in tomorrow at 10. But, I mean, we had Abe Gordon on to start the show while you were getting your coffee. And once again, it is, another match where Atlanta United has a result that is either a draw or a 1-goal loss. And it is now 9 in a row. And once again, we go back all the way to Toronto, the last time that Atlanta United had a deficit of more than one that ended up in a loss. And that's where we are in a double match week, heading down to Miami, and then with Charlotte coming to town. So now that you've got your coffee and you are prepared, what is now that we've had a couple of days to let this sit? What else is going on in your mind?
I mean, obviously, it's not what you wanted. It sucks. It sucks because it's difficult. It's difficult to balance, I think, with everything that is going on within the team and everything else. I mean, you want this team to succeed. And it sucks because, you go down a man. And I mean, one thing too that I think I've been seeing, and I feel like we have to talk about it. I feel like you mentioned it. You might have actually said this if I didn't hear it on the main show.
Yeah.
People are saying that the card on Guzan, that didn't completely change the game. Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
that changed the absolute game.
Yeah, we talk about game state a lot, but continue.
And if we are talking about game state, I mean, how the game went, and this is play-by-play how the game went. Foul happened, 6-minute review. Brad gets a red card. Brad gets sent off. Cohen and Almada come on. LAFC gets the free kick, deflects the wall, goes past Cohen into the goal. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. That's the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to tell me that doesn't have an effect on the game?
Oh, I know. And like I said, I mean, in this particular instance, yes, we do talk about game state a lot, and we do that on purpose. And the idea that if game state, all things being equal, if Brad's just a foul, you don't know what's going to happen on the free kick. But at the same time, you end up with Atuesta finally getting the second yellow after chirping ever since he got his first.
Yep.
Then it would have been 11v10 for however many minutes it would have been since Atuesta picked up that second yellow. But the final 10, I think, plus however many other minutes were added for stoppage. So,
well, that's another thing about stoppage time.
I forgot to mention this. Yeah.
That's nothing but stoppage time. With how many stops there were?
Oh, yeah.
First of all, 8 minutes. Okay.
Sure.
What? And then blowing the whistle at exactly 8?
7 minutes and 56 seconds. He blew the whistle.
I don't even know. I don't even know.
That took some fortitude. I'll say that. It's like,
absolutely.
You don't want to add any more time on the clock after what was going on after 90 minutes to 98 minutes, and then you're going to blow the whistle at 97:56. It's like, okay, all right. Yeah, I'd forgotten about Sergi Boyko blowing the whistle right at 8 minutes. That was another good one.
That just I was in absolute shock when that happened. He blew the whistle, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Huh? It just, yeah. And I mean, I don't want to harp too much on the refs because I just, at this point.
I know that we do focus on it as a topic, but what I like to do is separate it from the actual game discussion.
Agreed.
To have us talk about, and like I said, Christopher Abel brought it up, that he thinks that a lot of the replacement refs were doing better jobs than some of the folks that are currently on full paycheck now.
I agree. I would agree with him. I would agree. There's a discussion a little bit of like people were saying that the replacement refs like were not at the same caliber, but I'm like, I think this is the most consistent refs we've seen in a little bit in MLS, and that's been my biggest thing with referees, especially with pro and with everything. Is my thing is I'm like, it's a judgment call. Bart says this all the time. Most other people say it all the time. When you're a ref out there, it's hard. It's difficult. It's a judgment call. It's what you see on the field. You have VAR to help you. But at the end of the day, it is a judgment call. My thing is consistency. Consistency within a game, consistency within all the other games that are happening that day. If Brad is a red card, I expect that the next game we see, that is a red card again. But you know it's not. You know it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my thing, is there needs to be a level of consistency in how they call games and what goes into what. And also, too, I think utilizing VAR is very important in the aspect of if you need help with the decision. Now, taking 6 minutes to try and look for a foul that maybe isn't there, that's not something you should do. But that's been my biggest ordeal, is I'm like, where's the consistency in it all? And I know that it's difficult because, again, it's judgment and we're humans, so it's very hard to do that. But I think if you're looking at the games in a whole, if a game happens earlier in the day, and that I'll use the Nashville game, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Mukhtar gets tripped in the box, that's a PK. That happens. In the next games leading up, if the same thing happens, that should also be a PK, no matter where it is. Because you're setting that standard that, we as pros, we're calling it that.
Nah. No, not happening. You're not going to have some universality of effect.
No, you're not. And that's the thing, is it's like, I can want that, but that's not going to happen because it's judgment. And it's also too, it's like, all of these refs are different. You've mentioned it. How many refs call fouls in a match? I mean, some refs might look at a foul and say, oh, that was a little soft, I'm going to let it be. Yeah. Other refs will look at it and be like, oh, that's a foul. And then if they do something even worse.
Which is fine.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. That's totally fine.
If you're consistent about it.
Yes.
If you set your tone of, okay, we're going to be physical. And that was my fear in this match, was that not having seen Sergi Boyko in the middle this season, I didn't know how he was going to operate stylistically. Mm-hmm. And okay, so you're toward the bottom, and as it turns out, you are the bottom of fouls called per match. And my initial response to that is, okay, he's going to let things go. It's going to be physical. It could play into Atlanta's hands, where you can be physical against LAFC, and LAFC traditionally, when they are being physical against, they don't quite know how to respond. They get very, very ragged and disrupted in those situations. Yeah. But as it turns out, the lack of foul calling is just because of a lack of calling fouls. It is not because of an idea of consistency of letting a style of play go. It is just, okay, well, that should have been a foul, but it wasn't called a foul. That isn't a foul, but it was called. You create a yellow card situation after the 11th minute. And it's like, okay, so if that's this, then it should be this. But in this case, it's not. And like I said, I would love to know what the rationale was for calling the dog so red. I would love to know.
I would love so too. I'm interested to see what MLS or what they release about that.
It'll be buried in a
absolutely.
It'll be buried in their weekly review. But I can't wait to see what the response is when they do the news dump Friday at 5:30 to discuss the calls of the previous weekend. And I would also love to know.
Would we get it earlier if it's
a double match week? I don't know. That's a good question. We'll keep an eye out on that.
I was just curious. Anyway, continue.
No, that makes sense. Which means it probably won't happen. But I also want to know if Atuesta is going to get any kind of an envelope from the league office with a letter attached saying that you have been fined X amount of dollars for before your substitution going down. It's like literally you get your second yellow, and then all of a sudden you got an owie, and you go down on the turf. And what this does is blatantly gives your team the chance to warm up a dude for another couple of minutes to get him out there so he can be ready for the substitution. And literally, you've gotten your second yellow. You're out the door. You're down the ramp. You're supposed to be. But no, I've got an owie and I can't move. And then all of a sudden, when the substitution is ready to be made, oh, yeah, I'm good. And I'm ready to go. And then you get escorted down the tunnel and you're out the door, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Well, which actually I think is funny. I'm pretty sure that when he came off the ref told him to wait until the play was done before he came back on. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So the ref did catch that. At least I hope he did. I don't know if that's exactly what happened. From what I saw, it looks like he was about to come on, and then he said stop, and I was like, oh, okay, they're stopping. Okay. But anyway, I'm so glad you brought this up. I think it was absolutely classless what he did, personally. I think he should be suspended for another game. I don't think he should get a fine. I think he should be suspended for a game for what he did.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, it's, there are times when you just sit there and it's like you understand gamesmanship. I get what you're trying to do, but because you got the second yellow and then all of a sudden magically you have an injury and you sit down, it's like, oh, I can't move. No, it is specifically to get your team ready for your substitute. And then however you want to strategize and figure out, okay, how do you want to set yourself up when you're down a man and it's now 10v10 for the final 10 minutes. That to me, it's you're making a mockery of the proceedings when you do something like that.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what he was doing. I mean, he went down. It was kind of all jumbled up, so we actually didn't get to see. But I think me and Jarrett, I looked at him and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Atuesta. And he was like, no way. And we saw it on the thing as he went down, and we were like, oh my God, it is Atuesta. And he just got the second yellow. And I was, listen, I think it is absolutely insane that you do that. I think it's horrendous that you do that. And then I saw that stretcher go on, and I was like, oh, he's about to wave this away. You watch. And they did. And then everyone in the stands was just booing like crazy. But I don't think he should get a fine. I agree with Michael. I think fines are pointless.
Yeah.
I think fines don't do anything. It's literally, they don't do anything.
Yeah.
These players do it day in and day out. That's not going to stop. Yeah. He should be suspended for a game. That is what his punishment should be. Because that is absolutely outrageous. You get your second yellow from a foul that you should have gotten maybe 5 minutes prior, because you literally body checked Muyumba 3 times. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. That to me, that whole situation made me mad as well. It's interesting. All of that, and then Aaron Long's thing, those made me more mad than the actual penalty or the free kick and the red card.
Oh boy. Yeah.
It's just come on. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I get it. Whatever. I know you're trying, it's a tactic. I get it, but it's very unsportsmanlike. It's wrong. And it really it poisons the game a little bit. I don't want that to happen every single time a player gets a red or a second yellow and sits down, and we have to have a stretcher come on just for him to wave it off, and then he slowly walks off the pitch.
Yeah, it was very, very CONCACAF-y what Atuesta did.
Oh, yes, it was. Oh, CONCACAF-y.
Yes, and Dell says that the 2-minute rule has got to go. The unsportsmanlike. If you're down for injury and you're down for longer than X number of seconds, then you have to stand on the sidelines for 2 minutes and those kinds of things. I mean, this just. Yeah, there are a lot of things that are growing pains with the new rules this year in Major League Soccer, and so we're all having to learn. We're all having to learn across the board.
Absolutely.
See what it's like. Let's see. So, morning hellos, because I haven't even gotten the chance to say hi to everybody who's wandered into the room this morning. Morning Hutch, morning Dell, morning Shiva, morning Ropes, morning Chris Abel, morning Emilio. Let's see. I'm trying to see. Morning, Alex. Let's see. Oh, wow. Morning, Brandon Tomlinson welcoming us in the board. I think this is the first time that Brandon has joined us. Brandon mentioning Hunt City and how things are going in MLS Next Pro. And I saw the stat, and I'm trying to see if I can find the stat on Hunt City. And where is it? And I think, yes. Okay. So Nashville, so Hunt City is on a 15-match winless streak with a minus 16 goal difference. And Ben Wright brought that up, this a writer for Broadway Sports Media up in Nashville. So after what happened yesterday, 15-match winless streak, minus 16 goal difference right now for Hunt City. So we understand why Brandon is slightly hot under the collar this morning. Morning, Tom. Let's see.
Which I will say about Huntsville, getting the chance to watch him again in action. Ajago, having him back is huge for them. He's he's a force. I mean, and he scored the 2 goals in the game against Atlanta United too when we won 3-2.
Right.
To bring it back. I mean, he's a very good player to get back. And from what I heard, like they're dealing with a lot of injuries, and that's plaguing them, which obviously that's not good to have. It sucks. But getting those players back, like slowly trickling them in, that's very nice to have. Ajago is a phenomenal player. When he came on and we were watching him play, he was a huge standout for me. He's very fun to watch.
Yep. 4-card Bart is out for this Wednesday and for the foreseeable future. And so I think he's out this Wednesday, and then he's heading to the Euros. So it is a previously agreed to family situation that he has to attend to. And so it looks like it's going to be Jay Fortune's season and Dax McCarty. And so we'll see how things roll there. But morning 4-card. So let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else that I have not seen in the chat line that is here this morning. I think I got everybody. So yeah, I think I did catch up with everybody. Morning, Michael Head, by the way. No, and Del, we don't know why Jack Collison left. No, we don't. And it was after a handful of matches this year, and Jack is still in Huntsville. He's got some clinics, as a matter of fact. So he may have found a home in Huntsville, but don't know why Hunt City and Jack Collison went their separate ways. So if that information ever comes out, obviously we'll let everybody know. But do not know why he left. And what the situation was about the separation. Drew, provided he finds a quiet location, should be with us in about 20 minutes to discuss FA Cup and such. Shiva wants to know, how do we know that they're practicing on finishing? Every team can finish. We can't, and none of our players can. Don't think it's the players. No, I mean it's part of the daily drilling. Trying to put the ball in the back of the net. So no, it is when you get to be at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. Maddie's up there consistently. They do practice as a part of the drills and the drilling structure. They do practice on putting the ball in the back of the net and finishing. So it is something that is done. I mean, Maddie, you've seen it when you've been up there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something you have to practice because that stuff doesn't really comes from the players. I mean, there's only so much of that. Like, I think coaching you can really do when it comes to like ball goes in net. It's like,
mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, they practice all of that all the time, and it's just figuring out how to get the ball into the net. That I think is at least what I saw in the match. I mean, and it's hard. I mean, it's rough because I really actually did when we went down the 10 men and we got Almada back out there. I thought it really opened things back up when we were trying different things, and we were getting some shots off. But obviously, it's finding the right shot, and it's making sure it goes into the back of the net.
Yep. No, Michael, we still do. Oh, and morning, D. Graham. We still don't know why Bruce Arena left New England. We still don't. And Niall, morning, Niall. So Niall is now in this morning as well, and lets us know what's going on with Tommy Scoops. And this is as of 3 minutes ago. Now that Cruz Azul's season's officially over, Bogart expects very much expect urgency for their talks to sign Yorgos Giacomakis heating up in the coming days. Priority target, Cruz Azul have the money. And according to Tom Bogart, Atlanta willing to deal at the right price, as I understand it. So we'll see. But remember the window. I think the window has another month when it comes to Liga MX. Now that their season is seasoned, and the campeón is Club America, I believe, and so I think they've won everything that there is to win when it comes to everything in Liga MX. And Chris, missing Giacomakis really hurts too. Hard to win in the league when your DP striker can't get on the field consistently. That is absolutely true. Dell, Gregerson's impressed me in every game since his return. Saw him twice live. So good. Yeah, and that's why when you've got that kind of a lockdown free safety, for lack of a better phrase, we made a point for those of you that were at Mercedes-Benz on match day on Saturday night. We made a point for one of our segments in the halftime to show how Stian Gregerson was making sure that Denny Bouanga was not getting loose. And when he did, you got to see the closing speed of Stian Gregerson and what he brings to the table. So to have him completely and totally healthy and back and getting Derek Williams close, we got to see what the lineup was at the back when you had a healthy Derek Williams and a healthy Stian Gregerson out of the blocks. You're gradually, Maddie, working your way back to having those two as your center back.
Absolutely. And I think that if there is a positive to take out of LAFC, I think that is the biggest one. Seeing Gregerson back in almost full form. Obviously, he had to come off a little bit due to some cramping because, I mean, Gregerson was just running all over the pitch on Saturday. I mean, he was going at it. He was battling. Oh my gosh, he's nuts.
Yep.
He's absolutely crazy. I mean, truly. Getting him back fully healthy and having him be in where he's supposed to be, that's so huge. Because I also think he brings a level of like edge to the back line and even to the team a little bit, because he's no nuance. He doesn't care. He's gonna win the ball, and he's tall and he's big, and he doesn't care how he does it. And I think that's what you need. And it's especially getting Williams back onto the pitch a little bit, getting him to play for a couple minutes. I think that's huge as well, because I think having both of them really be that starter point behind goal or in front of goal, excuse me. I think that's huge, because I think you've been missing that. But I also don't want to even point out the fact that Noah Cobb, Luis Brahm, Efrain Morales have all stepped up absolutely huge when both of those guys went down.
Yeah,
I didn't notice a big difference in our defense when Stian and Derek were gone. I mean, I think that's great development, and I think that's phenomenal. And I really think that, it's nice to know that if anything ever happens, we have a solid group that can step up in those situations. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited to have Derek and to have Stian back, because I think that's going to be huge, especially for just some of that communication. Like talking to Derek earlier this season, I mean, the way he communicates on the field, I think, is so important. I think that is very important, to have someone who's not just the captain or have someone like that, but have someone who can help communicate and help facilitate things, I think is really important.
Yeah. And Christopher Abel also makes the point about two other individuals, Dax and Luke. Lineup changes, and you're because of not having Bart, you're going to be having a more active Dax McCarty into the discussion.
Absolutely.
It'll be Jay, it'll be Dax, it'll be probably Jay giving you 60 and Dax closing it out as that defensive midfielder position. Luke Brennan, obviously, when Saba heads over for the Euros, I think that it will be an opportunity for Luke Brennan to run it, folks.
Luke Brennan is insane. I mean, I don't know what's like. He's nuts. He's the most insane player I've ever seen in my life. Like you guys got to go back and watch his goal against Chattanooga on Saturday. How he just ran up, stole the ball from the goalkeeper, went at like an angle. Like, I mean, like he is like parallel with the goal. chips it in and it goes in the back of the net. I don't know how he does it. I really don't. He's nuts. I think he's a great player. I think he might bring a little bit more of that young edge too, I think, to it, because he's hungry for it and he's fast. And I think he's willing to try new things, because even if he lets goes of a ball, he's very adamant about trying to track it back down. And I think that is something you might want. And I think Brendan can give you that.
Yeah. And so looking forward to that on the right-hand side, where you'll have two guys in Luke Brennan and Edwin Mosqueda, who basically, I think Luke will be the, on the right-hand side, Luke will be the guy that'll run for 60 or 65. And then Edwin comes in and gives you late game Edwin for 25 or 30 minutes. And then you have Edwin running at tired legs. And I think that's kind of the layout of that. Dell, I am trying to effort your question about firing. When did Miami fire Phil Neville? Trying to figure out how many matches in that did in fact happen. Let's see. Team was in the bottom of the East, so it was June 1st. So it was 15 points in 15 matches. So that was when they, on June 1st of 2023, that was what they did. 15 points, 15 matches, and then David Beckham fired Phil Neville at that point. So let's see. Morning forecard. And let's see. I'm trying to see what else is going on. Yeah, and Josh did finally play after the Dogs So Red to Brad. And then, Chris, one of the biggest issues, though, is roster build. 8 or 9 guys who play for national teams, even bench players. Why aren't we trying to target players from larger countries who won't get called in every other month? Well, I mean, Chris, they've got to fit what you're looking for, first and foremost. Second, they've got to fit your salary structure. And we don't know what, and like I said, this is one of the things that frustrates me more than anything. Who's on your roster, but you don't know how much space you've got when it comes to figuring out, hey, I'd like to sign a guy. What can I sign him to? Those kinds of things. So, so there are definitely things that frustrate me when it comes to looking at salary structure, cap, what you can spend, what you can't spend, who you can spend it on. But also you've got a summer window coming up. And what I always will say is we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what the front office is looking for. We don't know what they're looking at. We don't know where they're looking, but there is a history of looking overseas. Remember last year, you brought in Jamal, you brought in Tristan, you brought in Saba, and then you brought in Stian. And so in those 4, you're looking at distressed assets and Bart Sleesh, but Bart was not a distressed asset at Legia Warsaw. Stian was Ligue 2. Shande was Ligue 2, I believe. Tristan was Ligue 2. And Saba was the Turkish Super League. And so, like I said, you've got a window coming up, but I'd love to know what Atlanta United could do. I'd love to know what the rest of Major League Soccer could do when it comes to, okay, here's a window and now you can spend and you can do this and you can do this. I mean, we know that probably Messi and friends are waiting because of the most recent injury. They're probably waiting for the summer window to figure out what they can spend and what they can't spend. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to know who can spend what and who can go where, because then that would make this transfer window really something to look forward to. Not just for Atlanta United's sake, but okay, who's Nashville chasing after? What's Miami going to be doing? Who are, what's Phoenix? What's Portland going to do? Those kinds of things. We don't have all that information. But just because someone is silent, because a front office is silent, doesn't mean they're not working. If that's like a triple negative. So I'm sure that my mom will shoot me for that. But just because we don't hear anything doesn't mean anything isn't being discussed or happening. So that's basically how I would phrase it. But I'd love to know what you could spend up to, what what kind of space you have. But unfortunately, right now, Major League Soccer doesn't want to release that kind of information, which is really disappointing.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's frustrating at times. Let's see. Yeah, Ten Hag is probably gone, Dell. And well, like I said, when Drew comes in, hopefully in about 10 minutes, we'll discuss it. Like I said, Dell, I don't think that Gazan hit it right at Bogusz on purpose. I think he was trying to get rid of it. It just so happened that Bogusz was running and it popped him right there. I don't think that was something I'm going to aim it at Mateusz Bogusz and hit him square in the nose. So I don't quite think that it was intentional, but that was, that's like you're looking at physics. It's like launch angle and location and all these kinds of things. I don't think it was intentionally hit right at Bogusz. So
I will quote Jarrett in what he said on Twitter. Gazan came out like a flying seal and just like knocked it with his head. And you know what? I saw it happen and I just didn't believe it. And then watching it back, I was like, okay. If you want to go back and look at what Jarrett did say about it, he says something about a flying seal.
Yeah.
He says it.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
No. That is Jarrett. And Emilio is agreeing with you, Maddie. You are correct. 6 minutes is totally wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like, come on. Like, I mean, you said it. I mean, it's almost like you're looking for something. If it's clear and obvious and you're going back and looking at VAR, then stop the VAR check and go call it.
Yeah.
Like, why are you taking 6 minutes on a call that's, I mean, if we're going by the standard of what everybody else is saying, if it's a clear red card and it's a clear denial of a goal scoring opportunity, it should not have taken 6 minutes.
Yeah.
If that's the argument we're going with, it should not have taken 6 minutes to figure that out.
Right. And Emilio, to your point, refs are inconsistent by nature. What I would like in my officials is this. I would like, and this might be asking too much. Hell, I don't know. I would like consistency in their approach of calling a match. I'd like to know, when I go, Siri, what is a foul? Then I've got a foul. If you're going to let them play early, let them play. Fine. Do that for the full 90 minutes. Don't show any cards. Let them be physical and at least have that knowledge going in as a fan or as a journalist or what have you, that, okay, stylistically, I know who you are. You're going to let them play. Great. If you let them play, that's cool. And then if you overcorrect, then that's not what we should have been anticipating in the first place. Either call it loose or call it tight, but stick to that. Let me know what a foul is and have that. I don't think I'm asking for much. Let me know what a foul is. Let me know what a foul isn't and stick to it through 90 minutes. What we saw with this crew here on Saturday is we didn't even get that. We got zero consistency in what is a foul and what isn't a foul. Apparently, blood is not a foul. Blood is not a card. Acting and poor play acting is not even a subsequent card. Chirping apparently is not a card. Hip checks and elbows apparently are not fouls and or cards. So if you're going to be all over the place, I'd like to know that, but I don't think that's going to happen. If you're going to be consistent one way or the other. Don't overcorrect halfway through a match and sit there and go, okay, I called a lot of fouls and I gave a lot of cards in the first 45. Therefore, I feel like I have to go the other way 180 degrees in the second half to overcorrect. Literally, it's oversteer. It's like, look, you're hydroplaning on a road. And the tendency is to oversteer. And then what happens when you oversteer and when you're hydroplaning, the car ends up, crashing and jackknifing and doing whatever. If you're hydroplaning, look, just turn into it. Just turn into the skid. That's all I want from my officials. Just turn into the skid. Don't overcorrect and wreck the car. More often than not, that's what happens. Sorry to turn this into, a hydroplaning exhibition on a day like this where my back porch is now officially flooded from what's happened this morning. But
oh no!
Oh well, we're downhill and we're at the bottom. We're at the bottom of a hill and everything. And no, it's every single time it rains, the back porch of Office HD gets flooded and we have to wait and then we'll sweep it all out. But just look, if you're an official, just turn into the skid. just let me know. Let me know who you are and let me know what you're doing. Just do it. And like I said, well, Bart, we're going to have a field day with Bart. We're going to have a field day with Bart when he joins us tomorrow from 30A. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that that Atlanta is turning into the skid with everybody being healthy, with everybody getting healthier, and I know that we've got to have to balance that all over again with the Euros and things. But yeah, that's where we are right now. I know you've got 4 minutes before you have to go. What else is on your mind?
Ooh,
Oh, you haven't talked about the twos, so talk about the twos for 4 minutes.
Oh yeah, we can talk about the twos. Twos came in with the so Brennan made it a 1-0 lead for the most part going into halftime. Chattanooga was able to come back to make it 1-1, and then there was a PK, or there was a Jaden Hibbert came out of his box to try to block and then tripped up a Chattanooga player to get the penalty for Chattanooga, and Coach Steve Cook got a red for dissent. So we will be without Steve Cook once again for Crown Legacy this Friday. Not exactly sure why it was a straight red card for dissent. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that play leading up to it and see.
I think a lot of times you end up with a quote unquote reputation, and it probably precedes you in these times, and so that might be part of it. Where if you sit there and you think you hear something, kind of like when Aaron Boone got tossed by the home plate umpire, and it was the guy behind the first base dugout that was yelling instead of anybody inside the Yankees dugout. If there's a reputation there, and your home plate umpire is kind of edgy, and he's kind of he's fingernails on a chalkboard kind of a thing, and he'll sit there, he'll freak out, or the home plate umpire, I forget who it was. It might have been, I think it was a Marlins game recently where home plate umpire claimed he heard something come from the dugout, and the manager for the Marlins comes out and he's like, "Well, who said it?" Home plate umpire, somebody in your dugout. You're gonna have to get rid of somebody. And the manager's like, "Well, who said it? Who said it?"
Listen, me and my friend yesterday, my roommate, she's a huge Braves fan, huge baseball fan.
Sorry.
Hey, listen, it's a tragedy. It's very, very sad. But we were talking about it, and I was telling her about the game just a little bit and everything, and she was like, "What is the deal with some refs and umps recently?" And so I was like, I don't know, man. I will say though, if you watch back some of the umps in these baseball games, I mean, I don't know what's going on there. I couldn't tell you. But yeah, I mean, the twos, so that happened. PK was made. It like ricocheted off the crossbar, so it didn't go in.
Right.
Then Chattanooga was able to score another one to make it 2-1, and then we earned a PK, and Javier Armas converted it. So then it was tied at Finley Stadium, and then we went to PKs, obviously, to get the tiebreaker and who's gonna take the win. And then Chattanooga came through. It was a 5-3 penalty kick shootout, and so Atlanta's coming home with a point, which is good, especially on the road. I think that's a good start for the team, getting a 1 point and one of your Southeastern rivals. I think that's really huge, and I think that's great to see, and especially going into Crown Legacy this weekend, this Friday, actually. I think that's another rival. That's another huge rival coming here. So it's, making a stand. And, we'll have Steve Cook won't be there, but hey, I mean,
he just won't be on the touchline.
He won't be on the touchline. He might be around. But I mean, I full faith in the
Jose
Silva. I mean, he coached against Huntsville. Jose Silva. He's great. I know the team is in full faith with him. So that one's gonna be a fun one. I'm really excited for the twos on Friday. It's gonna be fun. It's my first one, I think, back at here since April.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't at the Carolina core match on the 8th because I was calling Georgia State championships.
Correct.
And then I think all the other ones have been on road.
There you go.
I mean, I called the one in away, but it's my first time being back at Fifth Third.
Yeah.
Since everything. So
Yep.
that's pretty exciting. So
Yep.
yes, Christopher, this is the second time Steve Cook has been sent off this year.
That is correct.
He got a red card against NYCFC 2. I believe it was NYCFC 2.
Yeah, it was. I think it was core because it was a yellow in the first 45, and we didn't know why, and then he got a yellow in the second 45, and we didn't know why. So.
Okay, yeah. So he got one in that one. So then he wasn't able to coach against Huntsville, and then he earned a straight red. It wasn't even like a yellow. It was a straight red for dissent.
So it wasn't a yellow. It was a straight red.
It was straight red. So he's out for the game against Crown Legacy. I need to go back and rewatch it because I honestly don't know why he was given a red for dissent. Because it was one of those weird times where it like conflicted with the first team. So like first team and second team were playing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I think I was, like, looking up back and forth, and the last time I looked down, I saw that they were getting ready for a PK, and I was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's like, hello? But, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a fun matchup against Crown Legacy. I mean, I always love getting to see a lot of these younger players really step up. Carlton had a great match, but, I mean, he always has a great match. He's been phenomenal this season so far. Javier Armas, Noble Okello, they've been a little dynamic duo there in the midfield. Armas also like treating back to be a center back at some point. I mean, I don't know what he's on. I mean, he's nuts. He's another player I have been it's been fun to watch him play. And then, you know, Dejaney, you're getting Williams, you're getting Hibbert, getting the starts. It's just fun to watch. It's great. And I think it's going to be a fun matchup. It's going to be a fun rivalry against Crown Legacy. So here's my final spiel before I have to go.
Okay.
On Friday.
Mm-hmm.
At Fifth Third Stadium, Atlanta United 2's facing off against Crown Legacy. You all better be there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Be there, be squared.
Yes. 7:30 3 kick, 7 o'clock pregame on the SDH network, and that'll be a very, very busy weekend for us because I think Friday it's the 2s, Saturday I think it's Georgia Impact, and then I think Sunday it's all of the stuff and getting ready for the first team. And the minty fresh attack that is coming from Charlotte. All right, so go and do your calls and get your stuff, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow.
I will. Have so much fun, y'all.
All right, that's Maddie. So Maddie is out the door. So Del, we will give this question for it's probably by process of elimination. It's probably Ten Hog. Hutch, Almada's not drawing a lot of interest. We're not in a transfer window yet. We're not really getting close. So I'm sure interest is there. But until transfer windows like open, you're not going to sit before a window opens. I don't think you're going to say much of anything. Interest is there. And I just don't think because windows aren't open yet, people aren't saying anything. And Derek, I forgot the acronym. I agree with you, but what's the LF in tall man? That's a LFTM is good. Yes. So we'll see. But I can't remember the LF part, but remind me, Derek. Let's see. Everybody's talking about Luke and and Abby, I think the main reason she wishes Firmino would have started over Rios. Nick played 120 against Charleston. So I don't know how much gas he had in the tank. I think that bringing him in for a cameo at the tail probably was more. He was the physios probably said, yeah, you can do that. He can't start and go 120 and then start. So that was probably why that was. So that was why, because Mosqueda played 120, Efra played 120, Nick played 120 against Charleston. So that was why we didn't see certain folks. Michael, I have a better first touch than Mosqueda. Let's see. Yeah, I know it was weird, and it might have been the storm because you guys were telling me that Twitch kind of ducked out, and I have Twitch off to my side to see how things were. But yeah, there was like some flickering and stuff. It was almost like the Twitch transmitter took a power hit. You know, like when you have TV stations that are on power. On AC/DC power, and then they take a power hit, and then they have to switch to generator. We don't have a Generac generator, although we probably should. We probably should invest in one just on general premise. But yeah, I saw the Twitch kind of going, and freaking out, and then it came back. So I don't know what was going on. Let's see. Michael's continuing to emphasize coming in non-international players. Don't know who captain will be. Chris would start Dax and captain him. Emilio wants more goals. In referee training, there should be a point where they say if you can determine if it's a foul or not within this much time, and if not, move on. I'd love that. I would absolutely love that. And like I said, I think that with VAR, I think there ought to be a time limit. Emilio, ever consider if we crash the net more often, we may get some calls for us? I think, honestly, the way that why this reputation started this way, I have no idea. But I would think it probably would go the other way. That's just me. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, it was just, Abby's like, it didn't realize he lost us. It was, but it was just like, figured it out. My guess is that if you get to that point, Del, it's probably going to be Rob, but we don't know. Yeah, hiccup twice, and I was gone. Then it came back. We got rid of Brorino. We got rid of him. Yeah. Well, then ropes. Morning ropes. By the way, it was Saturday was a collision of Twitter, where the Atlanta United 2 match started at 7:03. And Maddie had the first half of the 2s match on our Twitter, and then Jarrett kind of collided with Maddie, and they both had access to the account, so you could get updates on the 2s from Maddie while Jarrett was handling first team business. Absolutely. So the window, July 14th. Large, fast, tall man. Thank you, Derek. Bless you. And it was a Twitch. Absolutely. So July 18th through August 14th. So during the Olympics is when you can work your way through. Refs need a stopwatch. Start it whenever there's a stoppage. Figure out true time. Should have been at least 10 minutes. Absolutely. Yeah, and the fact that he stopped it at 7:56 drove me nuts. Let's see. And so news outside, in and around everything else this morning. Kieran McKenna no longer under consideration for the Chelsea gig. Chelsea have made an official approach to Leicester over Enzo Maresca. Hope to strike a deal with him to be their next head coach by the end of the week. Let's see. And this Julian Carranza from Philadelphia, looks like Feyenoord is interested in him. Ben Jacobs, by the way, has a big, and we get into this tomorrow with Bart as well, when it comes to the deep dive on VAR. Apparently, Wolves are going to make 10 key arguments in favor of scrapping VAR. Well, that's dumb, first off. Scrapping VAR is dumb. Absolutely dumb. So here's the 10 thoughts, and we'll get into Decatur FC coming up in just a little bit. Here are the 10 thoughts, and I'll write this down for tomorrow so I don't forget to discuss this with Bart. You have overreach of VAR's original purpose. So overreach of VAR's original purpose. Okay. Morning, Will. Survived the Naders last night. And we talked about the Brad Red. We'll talk about it again tomorrow with Bart. None of us are fans of it or refereeing in that current situation. VAR's original purpose, overreach. Okay, fine. Impact on celebrations and atmosphere. That comes with time. You'll learn how to adjust your own VAR behaviors. It should get faster and faster and faster. Think of it like this. Think of it like rehearsing for a play that's supposed to be really, really funny. When you start out, the actors are still trying to figure out each other and figure out the timing of the play, like a slapstick or farce. Slapstick or farce. If the actors have never acted with one another in the play, it's going to be clunky in rehearsals. at least at the beginning. But the more you rehearse, the faster the timing gets, the more that you're okay to jump on each other's last line. You're jumping in. That comes with time. Frustration and confusion in the stadia. I think that obviously if the center ref keys a mic and explains everything for you, then I think you'll be better. Hostile and negative atmosphere inside stadia. Well, if VAR were better and you didn't have incidents like you had in the Premier League, it wouldn't be hostile. If you did it right or did it better, then you wouldn't have fans that were hostile. And the fans need to get over themselves. Hostile and negative atmospheres. Yeah, I know that was weird too. With Sergi Boyko, that you're supposed to hear the ref, and it sounded like this when he was talking. No, it didn't quite work. Hostile and negative atmosphere inside stadia. Well, then the fans need to get over themselves. If it's a hostile and negative atmosphere, you're trying to help the game out with VAR. Hostile and negative atmospheres, whatever. Get over yourselves. Damaging the authority of officials. Actually, in a perfect world, it is showing which officials really need the help and which ones might be better served doing activity in the championship or lower. Continued errors despite VAR, and that's true. Once again, it gets to that whole point of the idea in and around, doing it right. Incompatibility with the Premier League's pace. That is so self-centered, it's not even funny. VAR is, and when you have ARs who are told to keep their flags down past the resolution of a play, that is a rather puffy-chested comment, if ever there was one, by Wolves. Continued incompatibility with the Premier League's pace. We're too fast for VAR. VAR's got to step it up. If they said that, then I would agree. But once again, all of this comes with time. Once again, you're at rehearsals, you're doing the play. The more times you do the play, the better the actors are interacting with one another, and the better the play becomes, hopefully. Incompatibility with the Premier League's pace. We're too fast for you. You can't be here. Get over yourself. Extended added time and disruption. Well, yeah. I mean, if you are... Wow, a lot of this stuff just, it's oh, boy. Wow. Yeah. Oh, boy. Added time and disruption. Extended added time and disruption. If you ended up doing things quicker because of experience and because of time and because of being assured of your call and your space. Wow, this is just thinking too highly of yourself. Extended added time and disruption. If you're faster, you're faster. It comes with time. Just a profound lack of patience. If it can't keep up with us, we can't have VAR. Literally, that is what Wolves are saying here. VAR discourse, overshadowing matches. Welcome to the planet. Quoting one of the great heroes of this era, John McClane. Welcome to the party, pal. Discourse. VAR discourse overshadowing matches. Welcome to the rest of the planet. And if VAR didn't do it right, then you wouldn't be having the discourse. See, United, Atlanta, v. LAFC. Erosion of trust and reputation. Maybe they shouldn't have trusted you that much in the first place. Siri, what is a foul? Hutch, VAR, variable atrocious refereeing. Not wrong. And D. Graham, it's funny that Wolves bring up pace since that's the reason for VAR, as the refs can't keep up. Yeah, Wolves under Gary O'Neill and Lopetegui before them, they're quite pleased with just mucking everything up. There's a reason that Jose Sa is in net. Look, if they're happy with goalless draws and 1-0s and 2-1s and, Gary O'Neill with a budget, they're happy doing it that way. But according to Wolves, incompatibility with the Premier League's pace. I would maintain that a Wolves match would be one of the best matchups for VAR in keeping up with it. You put a Wolves match against, well, I was about to say Crystal Palace. You put a Wolves match against Sheffield, Luton, Burnley. See where I'm going? I would have said Crystal Palace, but they found Michael Olise the last handful of matches of the year. I would venture to say with at least half of the table, if a third, if not half of the table, Wolves and VAR ain't got nothing to worry about. But yeah, erosion of trust and reputation. This is just a wow. Wolves' ego in this is amazing. That is just wow. Yeah, we'll bring this back up with Bart tomorrow. Four-letter paper is also saying that that after next season, Pep Guardiola's done at Manchester City. I will maintain, and I will continue to maintain, that Pep Guardiola will be the first coach for NYCFC in the new barn. Absolutely. Tom, still say they should go to a centralized VAR with a panel rather than a single individual per match. And they're traditionally, what I'd like to see, and I don't know if we'll ever get the empirical evidence for this, Tom, if there are matches, East Coast, West Coast. Actually, tell you what, let's do this. What I don't want is the idea of a referee being a VAR for an East Coast match and then a West Coast match on the same night. I don't like that. Because if your first match was one where you were needed a lot and you're having to come back in and do a match at 10:30, you might not be as sharp for that West Coast match as you were for the East Coast match. Okay. So let's go over what happened on Saturday. Let's look at your VARs and see what happened East Coast game, West Coast game, because you can't really compare. All right, so let's go the 7:30s and the 10:30s. We had 4 10:30 games. VAR, Yunus Morakchi, Jorge Gonzalez, David Barry, Soren Stoichkov. So let's go to the 7:30s. David Barry called Atlanta United and LAFC, East Coast, and then called San Jose and Austin. So he had a double header. David Barry called 2 matches. Soren Stoichkov called 2 matches. He called Charlotte and Philly, and then he called Vancouver and Miami. Checking VARs. Morakchi called the Revs and NYC. And he called LAG in Houston, which had some fireworks at the end because apparently Ben Olsen decided to go up to Ricky Puig and put his finger in his face. Ben to Ricky, not the other way around. And Jorge Gonzalez called Portland and Sporting. And he also called Orlando and Columbus. I would say do not have double headers. Do not have a VAR who has a double header. If you're going to do that, have an AVAR VAR switch. So what I would do is if you were VAR for an East Coast game, you're an AVAR for the West Coast game. That's what I would do in this situation, or not even give them a doubleheader period because of what you're chasing in those situations. If, like I said, if your 7:30 game was crazy and then you're still having to come around and go and cover a West Coast VAR, first off, think of it from a referee or an athlete perspective, or even a fan perspective. If you're a fan and you're watching a 7:30 match and you're jacked up and you're watching it and it's fantastic, and then you have that crash coming down the other side, and then you got to go back and you've got to get your energy level back up to being VAR level for a West Coast game. That to me doesn't wash. I would either flip your AVAR and your VAR if you're going to do that from East Coast to West Coast, or not have repeaters, VAR and AVAR. I would not have repeat VARs for an East Coast game and a West Coast game. Wouldn't do that. Just for, like I said, just for the adrenaline sake that you're having to do and all this kind of stuff. So, legitimately, that is a concern for me. Hutch says he'd like to see a comparison of AI VAR decisions to human decisions over the course of a season to determine if accuracy and speed can be improved. Hutch, with experience. And that's why I think that what you should do, instead of have folks out of booth, in booth, on the field, off the field, you're calling matches down on the field, then you're a VAR, specifically train individuals to be VARs and AVARs. I think what you ought to have are the officials that are, they're losing a step, but they still can process the rules of the game. Exactly, Abby. What if extra time goes really long? I don't like repeaters. I don't like the more that I talk through it, the more I don't like the idea of a repeat VAR for East Coast, West Coast. I think what you ought to do is have the older center refs or the older ARs. I think they ought to be funneled into a campaign where they turn into your VARs legitimately. That way you have senior officials with a lot of years of experience in these VAR and AVAR positions that can process information, you would hope, in a faster fashion than someone who is down on the field and then up in the booth. I think you should specifically train individuals for being VARs. And Hutch, my concern about AI VARs, if AI can't write an article about the sport, how could they manage to get the officiating right? If AI can't write it, then how can they do it? But I would funnel senior officials to specific VAR and AVAR tracks. And honestly, if there are individuals who are up and coming refs or ARs and they feel like they're being blocked with their career path, and they want to raise their hand and go, look, I want to train specifically as a VAR, then have them go down that path. I think that my time should be better served as just being a VAR. Let them have that option. That's me anyway. Specific paths for referees. The senior officials that are having problems keeping up on the pitch, especially if you ask Wolves, Have them go specifically to a VAR track. Be those senior officials, but not on the field anymore. Have them be senior officials in VAR. And younger officials, if they feel so inclined, hey, I want to be just VAR. Let them do it. Let them absolutely do it. So I think that we would be, I think that would be better served to help out the industry if you did something like that. Other news and notes before we get out of here. Let me go and check the papers. Spain has a provisional squad out for the Euros, and Yamal and Kubarsi are included. Luis de la Fuente named Lamine Yamal and Pau Kubarsi in the 29-man Euro squad. De la Fuente must cut 3 players before June 7, before the tournament kicks off June 14. Fermin Lopez, Ayoze Perez get their first international call-ups. Left out, Asensio, Moreno, and Sarabia. He included 3 extra players to account for injuries before then, and Real Madrid competing in the Champions League final against Borussia Dortmund on June 1st. Group of death facing Italy, Croatia, Albania in Group B. Before the tournament, they face Andorra on June 5. Maybe I'll wear my Andorra national jersey on 5. I don't know. I guess Drew is off today. So if Drew's off. Whenever he pops back in, he pops back in. We will continue to discuss. Keepers for Spain. Unai Simon, Ramiro, and Raya. Defenders, Danny Carvajal, Navas, Kubarsi, Robin Lenormand, Dani Vivian, Nacho Fernandez, Aymeric Laporte, Grimaldo, and Cucurella. Midfielders, Rodri, Zubamendi, Mikel Merino, Llorente, Fabian Ruiz from PSG, Pedri from Barcelona, Fermin Lopez, Alex Baena from Villarreal, and Alex Garcia from Girona. Forwards, Morata, Joselu, Nico Williams, Dani Olmo, Lamine Yamal, Ferran Torres, Mikel Oyarzabal, and Ayoze Perez. So that's your Spain roster as it is laid out for the Euros. Like I said, they still have to cut 3 before everything is laid out in a couple of days. If you believe in the 4-letter paper, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid, the 4-letter paper is saying once again that Pep Guardiola, after one more year, he's out. My guess is he's still going to be the new head coach at NYCFC when they go into the new building. Monday's gossip, rumor, and innuendo, once again, remember that the Pep Guardiola story came from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Ederson is a key target for Al-Ittihad in the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote. Willing to offer an initial £25 million for the 30-year-old keeper. That's the 4-letter paper. Arsenal interested in Stade Rennais winger Desiree Doué, who's 18, prepared to compete with numerous clubs, including Spurs. United have held talks with Thomas Frank, Pochettino, and Pochettino, with Ten Hag being at serious risk of being sacked. If United appoint Pochettino, he'll look to bring in Conor Gallagher and Trevor Chalobah with him from Chelsea. Thomas Frank has held meetings with Chelsea as they look for a manager. De Zerbi is the 4th name on Chelsea's list, with Frank, Enzo Maresca, and now Kieran McKenna being put to the side. So McKenna, not interested. Amorim is not on the list either. So it is De Zerbi, Frank, Maresca the leader in the clubhouse. Maresca rejected an approach from Sevilla since he wants to stay in the Premier League. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Manchester United interested in teenage Blackburn striker Igor Tijon, who is 16. That's from the 3-letter paper. Stoke midfielder Sol Sidibe, 17. Target for Chelsea, AC Milan, Monaco after making his first-team breakthrough last season, 4-letter paper. Manchester United set to wait until after the summer window closes before securing Kobe Mainoo on an improved contract. Villa have agreed to a 2-year deal with the option of another for Ross Barkley, who can leave Luton after their relegation. Betis defender Chadi Riyad set to arrive in England for a medical ahead of a £12.7 million move to Crystal Palace, 4-letter paper. Sofian Amrabat says he'll speak to Manchester United about his future, with the Old Trafford club having an option to turn the loan from Fiorentina into a permanent switch. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg expected to leave Spurs and search for more first-team football. Fulham have made an €8 million bid for Stuttgart forward Silas. Leverkusen close to signing Spanish midfielder Alex Garcia from Girona, 15 to 20 million euro. That's from a Florian Plettenberg at Sky Germany. Burnley list of possible replacements for Vincent Kompany, who's close to joining Bayern Munich, and he wants to take his number one assistant with him. Include Frank Lampard and Steve Cooper. Norwich City set to make a formal approach for Nordsjælland manager Johannes Hoftorup as they looked to appoint him as their new head coach. Remember, they got rid of David Wagner after they did not advance in the playoffs. So that is that's what we're staring at there. Let's see what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it before we get out of here today. Because 2 stories before we go. Soccer on TV today. Do we have a whole lot? Borussia Dortmund and Bochum is going to be out there today as far as the second leg of that. Fox Deportes has the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote at 2 o'clock. Goal TV has the Ecuadorian Primera at 8. If you want to watch Goal TV for the fans, Nuestra Tele, Teisei, all the BNs, Liga 1 Max, 1 Max Pro, all that, you can go to Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And you can pick that up there as well. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. Fox Soccer Plus is simulcasting what's going on in that league overseas at 2 o'clock. 2:20 is the second leg of the Bundesliga B playoff between Düsseldorf and Bochum. Copa de la Liga in Argentina, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Union Santa Fe, Barraca Central, Atletico Tucumán, and Platense. News from a friend of the show, Elche and Becasese are departing their relationship. Becasese, they did not make the playoffs, and so Becasese is out at Elche. So that is what's going on there. That's what to watch and where to watch it. Pep has always enjoyed New York City. What he might do after he leaves Manchester City, take a year off, be an ambassador for City Football Group, manage a year or two, but it makes almost too much sense. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know, to your point, I don't know if he would like the budgetary constraints, but we'll see what happens. 2 things before we go. One about today and one not about today, but about today and every other day. So we'll start with today and every other day. I don't know if you saw this. The Korn Ferry Tour is the tour that is below the PGA Tour. If you do well in the Korn Ferry, you have a chance at getting your PGA Tour card and furthering your career. So it's like USL Championship in England, that kind of a thing. For those of you that don't know the golf hierarchy. Harry Higgs was the first player in Korn Ferry Tour history to win back-to-back tournaments in a playoff. And so he's pretty much locked into the PGA Tour next year. He won the Visit Knoxville Open. And he reminded us, he had a post-presentation speech. Kevin Price at PGAtour.com. Higgs normally has no trouble sleeping. Admitted Saturday night was an exception. Made a 37-foot eagle putt on the second playoff hole, beating Frankie Kapp in the third. So Higgs, as he won the tournament, here's part of his speech. Quote, "We lost yesterday morning one of our own, somebody who went through a lot of difficult things, somebody that was open and honest about it. And last night I thought about this moment and how maybe to remember Grayson. One thing that I thought of last night, especially laying in bed, is I would challenge everybody here, and I'm going to do this myself as well each day. Say something nice to someone you love, and also make a point to say something nice to someone that you don't even know. So if we can, everybody here could be a difference. The difference, brighten up somebody's day. It could mean the world. I'm certainly not perfect, but I'm certainly going to try to live what I said. Say something nice to a loved one and say something nice to somebody you don't know, and try to accomplish that daily. That'll be part of my routine, part of the things that I can control outside the golf course, and hopefully bring light to somebody that may be having a hard time, end quote. Second point. Today is Memorial Day. And in some circles, the weather outside is probably fitting to the mood. And in a lot of circles, it's a day to get through. It's a day for those of us to remember and never forget. And those are two different things to me. So on a day like today, remember what Nick said back on Friday as a part of it. But on a day like today, be there for others because you don't know what they're going through, and especially those who have served, who are serving, and who may just be on the verge of serving and giving up their every day so they can have their life at the forefront of representing our country and protecting our country every day. My grandfather, and I apologize because I tell this story every year. My grandfather was World War II. I mean, he was Battle of Britain, invasion of North Africa, OSS, which was one of the precursors to the CIA. He was a bird colonel in the Army Air Corps. And at the time, he was the youngest ever to achieve the rank of bird colonel. But because he always spoke his mind, didn't really care about hierarchical relationships and everything, and pretty much would tell anybody, regardless of what rank they were above him, what he thought, he would stay the youngest ever to be given the rank of bird colonel. And he would tell us, after he retired, he would tell us certain stories. There would be a story that he would tell where when he was in North Africa, he was there with a friend of his. And my grandfather just absolutely respected the ever-loving daylights out of Jimmy Doolittle. He knew Jimmy Doolittle and the Flying Tigers. Was not a fan of Ike. Respected Patton. That's the kind of guy my grandfather was. But there were two stories that he would always tell. One was in the invasion of North Africa. And they were in Algiers. And it would be a point where the U.S. ships would drop off supplies and jeeps and those kinds of things. And so my grandfather, being a bird colonel, and he had a buddy with his who had shared the same rank, they're hanging out there on the coast of North Africa, and there are all of these jeeps, and they're just from one end of the dock to the other. And my grandfather, he's like, we needed wheels. We just kind of bored sitting there, not doing much, waiting for our marching orders and such. And so we're going down the rows, and I just pointed at a Jeep, and I said, there it is. There's my Jeep. And there's this, buck private, might be 18. And he's guarding all of these Jeeps and everything. And so he comes running up, and my grandfather goes, soldier, this is my Jeep, and I'm going to take it. And of course, what's the private going to sit there and do? To somebody who's a bird colonel, he's not going to tell him. He's like, well, I need your paperwork. He's going, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Go ahead. And then his buddy, who'd be a couple of rows back, he would, he did the same thing. And this is my Jeep. And so, my grandfather and his buddy, both bird colonels, they got to kind of do a little joyriding with some Jeeps that weren't theirs on the North African coast. And until they ran out of gas and everything, and then they just left them, and then whatever. They're not going to put you in Jeep jail in World War II. And then the other story that he would tell is during the invasion of the Battle of Britain, he reminded us of when the Germans and the Nazis would jam the frequencies of the Allies, and they would come on to the radio, and they would identify by name the groups of soldiers that were coming in. And we'd like to welcome the battalion and this force and this force and this force, and they knew the exact names, they knew the exact numbers, and they would always finish it up by saying, "And we'll be seeing you soon." Those were the two stories that my grandfather would consistently tell about life in wartime. And hearing the stories from Nick, as close and as good a friend as Nick is, you hear Nick's sobering stories, and you hear the stories that only my grandfather wanted to tell. He would not go into the horrors of World War II at all. He would just tell those two stories, and that's it. We tried for the longest time to sit down and have him tell his entire experience, and he wouldn't do it. Not motivated to do that in the least. Was active in the Korean War effort. He was active in the wind tunnels up at the Arnold Engineering Development Center in Tullahoma, Tennessee. And he was in his 40s at the time. Wanted to be a part and wanted to be active as a bird colonel in the Vietnam War. But he was in his mid to late 50s by then and early 60s by the time the war was wrapped. And they're like, "No, you're too old." That was how wired my grandfather was. My grandmother was an Army nurse at Hunter Airfield in Savannah, and that was where they met. But when you have family members that will only tell you so much, and they don't want to open up and they don't want to tell you things, when you have friends that you love and they will only tell you so much because they don't want to open up, I think the biggest thing for us on not just today, where today is kind of a touchstone and it's a fence post that we put in the calendar as a reminder. I think it's important, just as important, to be there for those that have been through it, are going through it, will go through it every single day. To be there with them, not for them, but with them. There's a difference there to me as well. To be there with them, to help them if they want it, and sometimes if they don't. But I think that being there today should remind us to be there every day. And we all have our cookouts, and Nick said on Friday that, go ahead and have a big cookout, but this is not a happy day. It is a day of reverence and remembrance, a day of warmth, and a day of thought. So I would hope that all of us, not just today, but like I said, today is that fence post that we're all reminded to be there for each other today and every day, because you don't know what that person off to the side that means so much to you is going through. You don't know what that random stranger is going through. And that's why I wanted to bring the Higgs speech forward as a part of today. Say something nice to somebody today. Say something, be there for someone today. Be there for someone today that you don't know. And carry that energy forward. Be there for others as much as you are yourself. Be there for those who you don't know what they're going through. Do that today and every day. Don't just do it when we put a post in the ground. Don't just do that as we're constructing a fence 365 fence posts long. Don't just do it for that one post that you put in the ground. Do that for the other 364 as well. Help up that person next to you that you don't know, because you don't know what they're going through. Help that person off to the side that you do know, but you don't know what they're going through. Be there for each other every single day. Remember those who have given the ultimate sacrifice every single day. And remember those who continue to sacrifice every single day, whether it is mentally, physically, emotionally, or a combination of all three. And as Abby reminds us, we are still in Mental Health Month. Mental health is important, not just for ourselves, but for everyone we touch, everyone that is there every single day. We don't know the struggles of the person next to us. And it doesn't hurt to be there. And it sure as hell doesn't hurt to ask. Because if that person, you ask them and they sit there going, yeah, I'm all right. They're not. They're not 100%. If they're 20, be there 80. If they're 50, be the other 50. Make that 100% in each individual relationship every single day. Today above others, remember those who are an integral part of who we are today. But make that also available, the other 364. Don't just remember a veteran today. Remember a veteran 364 other days. Remember those who are impacted by veterans the other 364 days. Okay? Good, we got that settled. Tomorrow, it's pretty normal. We'll get back after everything. If there's anything that we missed, bring it to the table. Bart should be joining us from 30A. I will be intrigued to see what his backdrop is. We'll have a boatload to talk about with reffing down here. And thanks to Maddie and thanks to Abe for dropping by this morning on a holiday Monday where the sport never stops. And thanks for all of you guys for who you are every single day here with the network. We can't do it without you. Couldn't do it without you. And don't want to do it without you. Love the Discord, love the conversation, love the back and forth, love the exchange of ideas. We ain't stopping. We ain't going nowhere. So enjoy the rest of your day. Stay dry, stay safe wherever you are if you are impacted by Mother Nature. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow. Thanks for letting me roll for the stoppage time this morning, and we'll be back at it again 9:05 tomorrow morning here on the SDH Network. Play it safe for everybody. Mucha plata, y'all. Since it's the end of the show, today, we'll do it again tomorrow. See you at 9:05.